From Hargeisa, this is the English news program on SLN TV. My name is Mohammed Aden, here to update you with the latest stories making headlines. These are the stories to come. A conference occurs in Sayla to resettle Somaliland refugees in Djibouti. Somaliland's Minister of Aviation and Air Transport informs the media about renovations implemented at Bur'o Airport. Crimea referendum divides opinion in Ukraine. Hello again, now the main stories in Sayla. A conference occurred in Sayla district of Salal region to discuss efforts of resettling Somaliland citizens residing in Djibouti's biggest refugee camps of Ali Ade and Holhol. The conference had in attendance several officials of the Ministry of Resettlement, Rehabilitation and Repatriation, members of UNHCR and the regional officials of Salal region. Minister of Resettlement, Rehabilitation and Repatriation, Ahmed Abdi Kahin, speaking at the press conference, stated the current administration is committed and dedicated to monitoring the living conditions of all Somaliland citizens as it interested itself in resettling refugees and providing shelter as well as an aggregate of essential services. The minister pledged that the ministry will put huge amounts of focus on resettling the families of Somaliland origin residing in Djibouti's Ali Ade and Holhol refugee camps and expressed that the hopes and plans will soon come to fully pass. Earlier, the minister pledged that plans of bringing the refugees back home, an issue of scope and importance for the ministry, will soon come to fruition. The mayor of Sayla, Hussein Idle, also spoke at the conference, promising more hand-in-hand cooperation for the Ministry of Resettlement as the local government and the residents of Sayla to bring these citizens back to their home country of Somaliland. Other keynote speakers at the conference included the Governor of Sayla, Abdirasaq Waberi Roble, who stressed the underlying necessity of the ministry efforts towards bringing the refugees back to their country and commended the government for favouring the issue of resettlement. The Somaliland refugee residing in refugee camps of Djibouti fled the country prior to 1991 and did not return ever since. But bringing back home is an effort in which many see to be worthwhile to reunite them with their families. Minister of Aviation and Air Transport Mahmoud Hashi Abdi, speaking to the media, informed about renovation efforts implemented at the airport of Bur'o. The minister stated that he took a supervision tour of the airport recently to monitor the situation at the airport, as well as achievements made thus far by the airport, following efforts of rehabilitating the airport, which made possible to execute several developmental initiatives at the airport of Bur'o. Minister Mahmoud Hashi Abdi pointed out that the Ministry of Aviation undertook all these initiatives, including enclosing the airport and providing several essential equipment to keep the airport up with the international contemporary airport services. Earlier, the Minister of Aviation and Air Transport, accompanied by the manager of Bur'o Airport, Abdirasaq Saeed Ahmed, and Sheikh Ali Mawlid, who heads a committee responsible for raising funds to the renovation of the airport, took a supervision tour of the airport, which they indicated to have made progress step by step and still meets the prospect of furthering efforts to make sure the airport complies with international airport standards. Minister of Aviation Mahmoud Hashi Abdi stated that the airport of Bur'o, a commercial airport of great significance for Somaliland, is now capable of serving the citizens with sufficient equipment and staff. Somaliland's Chief of Custodial Corps Mohammed Hussein Farah took a work-related tour of Gabiley main prison. The Chief of Custodial Corps, speaking to the press, stated that there will be a vocational training center established for the prison and pledged more cooperation for the prison. The Chief of Custodial Corps, Mohammed Hussein Farah, speaking on the underlying necessity of establishing the vocational training center to rehabilitate the prisoners and let them gain more experience towards vocational skills. Gabiley's main prison plays an important role in the security of the district and the region as a whole. You're still watching the English news program on SLN TV, the only Somali-speaking channel with an English news program. And now for the main international headlines. Fast-track referendum on the status of Crimea is being welcomed in the region, home to an ethnic Russian majority. Many residents in Simferopol say it is a chance to express their will. I personally have a very negative opinion towards the United States. You've seen how they have managed to put half of the world on their knees, says one man. The only thing for us is to stay with Russia. Then we will have peace and prosperity. A woman in Simferopol adds, I support the referendum, but I haven't decided what I'm going to vote for. But in Kiev, the epicenter of opposition against deposed President Viktor Yanukovych, the referendum is being rejected. If there's a law in Ukraine which says the referendum should be on a national level, it should be national. If they want to decide on their own statuses, let them decide, says one man in the capital. The major question is what Crimea wants, just to be under Russia or to change their lives for the better. Western critics say the referendum is illegitimate and will violate Ukraine's constitution. It is the latest twist in the worst confrontation since the end of the Cold War. The EU has suspended talks on investment and visa-free travel with Russia in response to the crisis in Ukraine. After 6 hours of talks in Brussels on Thursday, European leaders warned they would consider further sanctions if Moscow refused to negotiate over withdrawal from Crimea. French President François Hollande spelled out what would happen if Russia takes measures that destabilize Ukraine, to put it more simply, that jeopardize the Ukraine sovereignty. Then we will take further actions. Those further actions could include freezing Russian assets, a travel ban for senior officials, and withdrawing from a G8 summit in Sochi in June. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said they were working closely with the US. If you look at what the United States announced today, it is a so-called executive order from the president regarding a possible visa ban and asset freeze. We are in close coordination with the United States on this. The EU also agreed to sign an association agreement with Ukraine, which includes free trade between the two ahead of elections scheduled on May. Correspondents in Brussels say the EU's stubborn stance is clearly targeted at the Russian actions in Crimea and the planned referendum there. He adds that given the strategic importance of the region to Moscow, the question is whether the threat of future financial sanctions will be enough to convince Putin to change course. At least 2 people have been killed as anti-government protests continue to rock Venezuela. For nearly a month, demonstrators demanding the resignation of President Nicolas Maduro have been staging rallies and setting up barricades in the capital, Caracas. Subsequent clashes with security forces and government supporters are now thought to have claimed at least 20 lives. In a televised statement, President Maduro repeated his call for peace. But he also suggested that he is not going to tolerate any insurgency movement. A candle that is lit on fire is a candle that must be extinguished. That's how it should be, he added. There seems little chance the current unrest will topple Maduro's government. However, demonstrators have increasingly defied opposition leaders' calls to end the violence. That's it for this edition of the English News Program on SLN TV. Thanks very much for being with us. You can catch us at the same time tomorrow. Until then, take care and goodbye.